perfect spring day greeted the riders for stage 1 of this 52nd edition of Tirreno-Adriatico Named Sport in Lido di Camaiore. 22 teams and a total of 218 competitors racing in 7 stages, spread out over 1,021.7 kilometres through the heart of the Italian peninsula from west to east. A one-week race featuring all the main ingredients of a Grand Tour, concentrated to the race of 2 seas, a distillation of modern cycling and the perfect preparation for the Giro and the big classic races, as last year's winner and current title holder Greg van Avermaet knows only too well.
For me, the most important is the preparation to the classics. I think classic rider comes here to do a good build-up, to be ready for a big classic like Sanremo and Flanders. So yeah, hopefully I can win a stage again like the other 2 years, and then hopefully with a good condition preparing to the classics, and then I will be happy with my Tirreno.
Stage 1 of Tirreno-Adriatico then, the traditional 22.7 kilometre team time trial, linking Lido di Camaiore to Fota de Marmi and back. Flat, straight, and not overly technical, a test of raw, sustained power. After Lotto Soudal set the best time, it was Quick-Step Floors who upped the stakes, stopping the clock at 23 minutes and 37 seconds, putting the 2016 Team Time Trial World Champions in the hot seat with a characteristically tight team performance, overshadowing the earlier time of Movistar. They were led by one of the favourites for the overall, the 2015 winner, Colombian Nairo Quintana. They finished in 23 minutes 42, 5 seconds slower than Quick-Step. Worthy of mention was FDJ's team performance. Third last year, they showed again they're a force to be reckoned with, and with Thibaut Pinot in their ranks, picked up a deserved 4th place, finishing 22 seconds behind the best time. Team Sky, who often seem to struggle with this discipline, had another day to forget. Gianni Moscon fell due to a ruptured tyre, riding at over 60 kilometres an hour. Didn't prevent the Italian rider, though, from completing the rest of the team time trial, but the remaining riders were way off the pace, finishing in 18th place. But the best was still to come. Last year's winners and race favourites BMC, featuring most of that 2016 team, tore into the second half of the course and were lining themselves up for the finish and a tilt at the best time set by Quick-Step. Kinziato's data. Where is Kinziato? I think he's towards the front now. Yeah, he must be, because look at that power output, now, yeah. 500 plus. Wouldn't surprise me if it edges up, nudges towards 600 before he drops away again. How many riders they got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one's gone. It's TJ Van Garderen's there. Van Garderen's on the front now. Kinziato waves a right arm. Was that a right arm that meant I'm cooked?
Yep,
yeah,
that's his last effort done.
So Kinziato's peeled away. That leaves 6. They can only afford to lose 1 man, and that one man cannot be the rider with number 8 on his back. TJ Van Garderen must be one of the 5 who finishes here. Well, they're all going to finish, but you know what I mean, finish in the timed group, so to speak. 5th rider across the line is the rider whose time determines the final outcome of their team time trial. 2K to go now for BMC, 21:34. They've got 2 minutes to do just under 2 kilometres, Dan.
Yeah, and they probably will do that, given the speed that they were going, over 60 kilometres per hour. So I think it's going to be close, but I'll get a much better idea when they go under the Flamme Rouge after having timed a few of the teams from that point.
Well, last time we looked at their speed coming off the data devices on their bikes, it was suggesting that they're riding at 62 kilometres an hour. So they had a handful of seconds inside 2K to spare, and if they're going at 62 kilometres an hour, they can do a kilometre in 58, 59 seconds.
Yeah.
And that'll be enough if they can maintain that speed. A little bit technical here around this right-hander and sweeping left-hander, so they'll scrub off a bit of speed into this bend and then accelerate out onto the left-hander and get up to that top speed again as they hit the Flamme Rouge.
Oh, 22:50
was what you thought they'll need, and they've got they're going under the Flamme Rouge at 22:26. So according to your reckonings, Dan, they're going to take this by about 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's an incredible time that they're doing, and disappointment for Quick-Step Floors, should I say, because they are going to be definitely dislodged from that top spot by Team BMC.
Yeah, you can see the look on Tomike there, Tom Bonan standing up there, and I think that the penny is beginning to drop that they're going to be beaten on this occasion. Remember, Quick-Step got the better of BMC last time they went head-to-head at the World Championships in Doha in Qatar by 12 seconds, but I think revenge is going to be meted out here by 4 of the riders who were beaten in the World Championships. That's Rowan Dennis, Stefan Kung, Daniel Oss and Manuel Quinziato. They'll be motivated to get the better of quick-step floors. And here they come, one big lunge for the line. And who is that rider who is going to be in the lead of the Tirreno-Adriatico tomorrow in the blue jersey? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They stop the clock. 23:20. They go faster by 17 seconds than quick-step floors. They take stage 1, and they will take the leader's jersey into tomorrow's second stage of Tirreno-Adriatico and out onto the road. So BMC, the winners of stage 1 by 16 seconds from quick-step floors. Thibaut Pinot's FDJ once again in 3rd place at 21 seconds, and Nairo Quintana's Movistar also at 21.
Today was faster with the 2 new teammates, new specialists. We have this year Kung and Dennis. These guys are specialists, so I think they make a difference today. At the end, was faster than last year.
Damiano Caruso then taking the blue jersey for BMC into stage 2, just as his teammate Daniel Oss did last year. Another sun-drenched day provided the riders with the perfect backdrop for stage 2 of the 2017 Tirreno-Adriatico Named Sport. 229 kilometres from Camaiore at sea level to Pomerance in the province of Pisa at 364 metres above sea. A typical rolling parcours in the Tuscan hills with a straightforward 119 kilometres followed by an increasingly demanding 110 with 3 difficult KOM points at Cerezano, Volterra and Montecatini. The run into the finish in Pomerance starts with a ramp at 8 kilometres, followed by a gradual incline ending with 2 kilometres of false flat and a devilish last 200 metres rising to over 6%. It's a perfect finish for a puncher. Following the traditional signing on, all was smiles for BMC's Damiano Caruso, whose performance yesterday handed him the blue jersey, for today at least, as riders pulled out of Camaiore for stage 2 of Tirreno-Adriatico. Predictably, yesterday's leaders controlled the bunch, intended to keep their blue jersey in their ranks and pulling at the head of the peloton, as a small group of 6 riders succeeded in getting away within the first kilometre, with Androni Giocattoli's Raffaello Bonusi and Davide Ballerini trying to strategically outnumber AG2 Mondial's Ugo Hull, Nippo Vinifantini's Alan Marangoni, Team Novo Nordisk's Charles Planet and Bardiani CSF's Mirko Maestri. The oldest rider in the breakaway took the first King of the Mountains of the stage, beating the youngest to the line, with Marangoni edging out Ballerini. Then came 2 intermediate sprints within 9 kilometres of each other, and on both occasions it was Bardiani's Mirko Maestri who got the better of the opposition to guarantee himself a maximum 10 points at the end of the day. There were problems en route to the next climb for Alan Marangoni, needing a rear wheel change after a puncture, but he regained his position, and the second King of the Mountains was a mirror image of the first, this time Davide Ballerini getting the better of Marangoni and putting them both level with each other on 8 points. Meanwhile, back in the bunch, a few riders fell by the wayside. Caleb Ewan of Orica Scott, as well as his lead-out man Roger Kluge, abandoning the race. Jürgen van den Broek of Team Lotto NL Jumbo hitting the deck hard and then climbing off. And Konstantin Sutsov of Bahrain Merida getting back in the race after a spill. With 26 kilometres remaining, the breakaway was caught before the final categorised climb of the day. And that set up a platform for a number of attacks by some stage hunters, and with Sky moving their big riders ever closer to the front. But it's all playing out beautifully well to Geraint Thomas, who's been around for long enough now to read a race and understand the motivations or the lack of motivations in a group of riders, and he read that to perfection tactically and decided that was the moment to go, created confusion in that little group that had got a slight advantage, and it played out absolutely perfectly. Yeah, and it had to be Orica Scott who had to react, because as we were saying, both Quintana and Adam Yates were being put into danger there by Bob Jungels, and it kicks up again here, and this is going to hurt Geraint Thomas, but he does have a defendable advantage, and there's only one rider at the moment working against him, and that is that rider you think might be either Hepburn or Durbridge, is it, from Orica Scott, who's bringing them back.
Yeah, this is definitely not over yet, Ned. You can see that the advantage has come down by 8 seconds, and he looks like he's starting to tie up slightly. 1,200 metres to go, and we've got AG2R now on the front. Of course, the riders in the group here behind have had that advantage of a brief hiatus, or at least a chance to sit on. Sagan is still in there in that group, and Gaviria, I think, is still in there as well.
Van Avermaet's looking good. Damiano Caruso in the blue jersey is still there. It's Matteo Monteguti, I think, from AG2R, who's doing the work on the front at the moment. But I think all the while that there's just a single rider from a single team riding against Geraint Thomas, I think he's got a live chance. And if those time gaps are to be believed, he takes 17 seconds into the final kilometre. But, Dan, we walked this just this morning. It's a testing final kilometre. It's not massively steep, but it's unrelenting all the way to the finish line.
No, it's looking pretty good for Thomas now. I've got my clock going from the 1K to go.
Sorry, forgive me. Dumoulin has decided that he has got the engine and the horsepower to do a bit of damage to these GC rivals. I don't think he's got any realistic chance of catching Geraint Thomas, although don't rule it out. But that's a problem for a number of the other GC riders. He'll be improving his general classification time if he takes 6 seconds for second place here and gains a few cheeky little seconds on the rest in the run-in. But Geraint Thomas, well, that's not a smile. I can assure you of that. That is a grimace of pain, but this would be a very, very good bounce back from a bitter disappointment on the team time trial. And let's face it, a torrid time for Team Sky over the last couple of weeks off the bike as well. Let's have a look at his advantage. Well, if 20 seconds is to be believed, that's reflected in what you're seeing there. Dumoulin is after him and chasing, but I'm not sure he's got enough road left to bring back the Welshman.
No, I think Geraint's done a very, very good ride here today. It looks like he's got just enough of a buffer to keep everybody at bay. Just a matter of 400 metres now between himself and the finish line here in Pomeranci. Tom Dumoulin behind still has a little bit of daylight between himself and the group behind, but you can see Castroviejo is now on the front of the bunch, trying to get Nairo Quintana up to Dumoulin.
Yeah, I think he can start to think about his celebration now, Geraint Thomas. No one's going to get to him. Disappointment yesterday in the team time trial for Team Sky, but the Welshman who came to this race in preparation for a possible tilt at the Giro d'Italia has rediscovered his form here and has answered his critics, not just of him, but of Team Sky as well. Stage 2 goes to Geraint Thomas and Team Sky, and in second place Tom Dumoulin rolls across with a small advantage ahead of Peter Sagan, who has come from nowhere to claim third place. What a race that was, and what a bounce back from Team Sky. Tom Dumoulin held on to second place, but a late surge to the line saw Peter Sagan come from a long way back to knock Greg Van Avermaet down to fourth. Adam Yates was the best of the GC favourites in seventh, with Nairo Quintana also up in the top 10. Geraint Thomas, though, the undisputed winner.
Been working really hard since November, really, and yeah, really nice to get this win now. It's always a bit, having racings down under, so I wasn't sure how I was going to be with the rhythm of the race, you know, and the fighting for position and the way the bunch moves, but obviously going okay.
There was a new race leader who happened to be an old race leader, the defending champion Greg Van Avermaet, pulling on the blue jersey once again, taking over from his teammate Damiano Caruso, with the BMC team leader TJ Van Garderen also on the same time. Bob Jungels was the best placed of the other GC riders at 16 seconds, with Quintana on 21. No GC favourites lost time on stage 2 though.
But now you are in the lead, like at the end of the race last year. What does it mean for you, and how will you work it out in the coming days?
Oh, it's nice to be in the leader jersey, but I think this is the performance of the team, and because of the good time trial from the team, I'm in the leader, and it's always nice. We always have to defend the jersey, and it's a big race, so it's always good to be the leader in a big race.
So a rare red jersey for the points classification for the Welshman, bringing a smile back to a beleaguered Team Sky. Thomas had a 2-point lead over Tom Dumoulin and Mirko Maestri. Davide Bellolini did enough to earn himself the green climbers jersey after stage 2. He was level on points with Alan Marangoni, but ahead on GC countback. And Bob Jungels was the new white jersey, taking over from BMC's Stefan Kung. Last year's best young rider at the Giro, led by 8 seconds to the white jersey winner at the Tour de France, Adam Yates. But it was still BMC who held the race lead, and Greg van Avermaet had high hopes of holding on to it for at least one more day to come. You may not have noticed that summer was still 2 months away as warm temperatures, blue skies and a light wind welcomed riders to stage 3 of Tirreno-Adriatico Nomad Sport. 204 kilometres en route with just one King of the Mountains at Scanzano, and after that a remaining 111.3 kilometres featuring 2 intermediate sprints grouped quite close together again at 10 kilometres from one another, one at Terme di Saturnia and the second at Catavio. The finale then would be 7 kilometres running into a difficult uphill finish in Montaldo di Castro. In a complicated stage race though, such as Tirreno-Adriatico, this was one of the more straightforward days for the peloton. After the usual signing on though, riders rolled out of Monte Rotondo Marittimo for this stage for the sprinters, with Orica Scott depleted. 2 important riders climbing off on stage 2, Caleb Ewan and Roger Kluger, suffering from crashes and illness respectively. An early breakaway formed once again, just 2 kilometres into the race, comprising a group of 7 riders, including Bardiani CSF's Mirko Maestri for the second day running. He was looking to pick up points on the road. Before the sprints though, it was Yuri Filosi of Nippo-Vini Fantini who took the one and only King of the Mountains of the day. Now, a welcome technology upgrade to this 52nd edition of Tirreno-Adriatico was the introduction of an electronic device fitted to the bikes, recording and transmitting live data, such as riders' speed and power output, and already in use in the Abu Dhabi Tour. What it couldn't do, though, was measure style, something Alexis Goujard from AG2 à la Mondiale may not have thought about while rocketing downhill a la Chris Froome. Certainly not something to try at home. Despite the constant threat of a cross tailwind picking up, it wasn't enough to spoil the party for Bardiani CSF's Mirko Maestri, who with the help of his teammate Luca Wackermann picked up full points on both of the 2 intermediate sprints on stage 3, putting himself into the temporary lead of the points classification. Only a Peter Sagan victory would deny him the jersey at the end of the day. Certainly wasn't the plan, and still Kaiser looks over to see where the man is that they are trying to ride for. Last year's winner and the big favourite. Geraint Thomas has moved towards the front, and he'll be leading out Elia Viviani, sitting on his wheel. There's Viviani, rider 188. Got 2 riders working with him. Team Sky with Kwiatkowski leading out Elia Viviani. And look at Quickstep Floors,
yeah.
A total disarray at the moment, and Bonen and Gaviria are stranded and way out of position.
Yep.
And the likes of Kaiser and Stibar have had to drop back, and they're going to try and shepherd the Colombian from a terrible position with just 2k to go. Has it all gone wrong for Fernando Gaviria, or can he recover position?
It's not looking great, is it? You saw the Quickstep riders just moving down the bunch to see where he was. And you can see them there on the left-hand side now, but it's only Tom Bonen doing the work, and they've got a lot of ground to make up now. Just 1.9k still remaining. It goes downhill fairly shortly, so the speed is going to be tremendously high. In fact, they're on that point now. They are getting up there. If you look on the middle of your screen right now, you see the 2 blue riders. Can they get there in time?
Well, if you want a rider in that kind of position to help you, Tom Bonen's not a bad rider to do the work for you, but it's going to be a full-on effort. They have moved themselves up to about 12th wheel, the 2 riders from Quickstep Floors. Still work to do though, and still the front of the race is all about dimension data and Bora Hansgrohe. Still the red jersey of Geraint Thomas is there, with Elia Viviani not far from him, and in a few hundred metres they will go under the Flamme Rouge and it will start to climb, and that is where the race for real will unfold. 1,000 metres to go of stage 3 of Tirreno-Adriatico. Where are the big players? The world champion Peter Sagan tucked in there in about 7th position. Gaviria getting closer with every pedal turn to the front of the race, but still with work to do. Edvard Boasson-Hagen takes things up now, softening up the race for Mark Cavendish. Cavendish is still there, or thereabouts. And he has Peter Sagan for company. Now the road rises, and it will rise steeply for the next 200 or 300 metres, and things will split up. There'll be gaps in this peloton when they come over the line as well. Geraint Thomas pulls away, and now Sasha Modolo moves to the front, and UAE Team Emirates take things up. Peter Sagan very, very handily placed. In fact, Modolo is just tucked in behind the world champion. Viviani and Kwiatkowski Viviani finds himself rather exposed. He's got Peter Sagan there. No sign of Fernando Gaviria at the moment, and no sign either of Mark Cavendish at this point. Viviani finds himself leading out Peter Sagan, and the world champion is going to take this unopposed. I think this is all about Peter Sagan. No one's going to get close to him in the end. Peter Sagan wins with something to spare here in the absence of Fernando Gaviria, and with Mark Cavendish nowhere to be seen at Montalto di Castro. Stage 3 belongs to Peter Sagan, who once again proves that if you're going to win, you're going to have to do something about him. He is bang on form. So that was the order of arrival across the line, with Sagan in first place, stopping the clock in 4 hours 51 minutes and 59 seconds. Elia Viviani in second place, Jürgen Roland sprinting to third, Sasha Modolo with a decent effort for fourth place, Luca Mezgec deputising for the absent Caleb Ewan and posting fifth. Despite Peter Sagan's win for Bora Hansgrohe, BMC kept the blue jersey in the family, with title holder Greg van Avermaet handing it over to teammate Rowan Dennis, as BMC avoided getting tangled in the final crashes that saw one of the big favourites for the day, Quick-Step's Fernando Gaviria, hit the deck and lose any chance of repeating his success from 2016.
Well, you don't know. You never know what's going to happen, and today was a little bit windy, but not... Yeah, everybody was afraid about the wind the last 50 kilometers, but in the end, nothing happened. And then a lot of riders come to the finish without legs maybe, but what it was. The last 2 kilometers was a little bit crosswind, and that was good. A lot of riders they are put in the line, and then it was more easy for position.
The world champion then, the winner of stage 3. In the overall standings, there was still a quartet of BMC riders on the same time. Nicky Terpstra on 16 seconds, but Nairo Quintana at 21 seconds, effectively the second best of the big GC favourites.
Normally, we don't think about the crashes too much in the final, and I thought worst case is Greg won't place and I will be behind him, and he'll be in the top 10. And so it was, I think the silver lining today is obviously that I get the jersey, and I think none of our guys have gone down in the crash, and we're all on the same time, so it's really just passing the jersey around.
Sagan's muscular sprint, though, earned the current world champion a second win for 2017 and the red points jersey, to the disappointment of Mirko Maestri, nudged down into second place, level on points, but nearly 23 minutes worse off than Sagan on GC countback. Team Sky's Geraint Thomas in third with 12 points, followed by Tom Dumoulin in fourth, and Elia Viviani bouncing up to fifth place following today's second place. In the overall climbers standings, Davide Ballerini kept the green jersey while sharing the 8-point lead with Alan Marangoni. Andre Amador in third with 5 points, and the new name there to look out for was Yuri Filosi, creeping up to fourth place after today's race. In the best young riders overall standings, Bob Jungels kept the white jersey with the same advantage of just 8 seconds to Adam Yates from Orica Scott. But at the end of stage 3, it was BMC who kept the blue jersey firmly within their ranks as Tirreno-Adriatico geared up for the more testing, difficult mountain stages over the next 2 days. Clear blue skies and strong headwinds awaited the riders for this first real mountain test in stage 4 of the Tirreno-Adriatico Named Sport. From Montalto di Castro to Terminillo, a mountaintop finish at over 1,600 metres of altitude, 187k to the only high summit of the Race of the Two Seas, with the first intermediate sprint at Viterbo, roughly 48 kilometres after the start, soon followed by the first of 2 KOM points at La Colonnetta at an altitude of 777 metres. Second intermediate sprint at Terni with just over 60k to go to the finish line, and then the final climb, 16.1 kilometres in length at an average 7.3% gradient, to the second KOM point and finish line at Terminillo. The 2015 champion Nairo Quintana was hoping for a repeat of his victory on the same mountain 2 years ago, but today in much milder weather conditions. And the blue jersey of Rowan Dennis led the group out onto the road. The flag drop was, as ever, the signal for an early breakaway, with 6 riders hunting for points. Davide Ballerini, Alan Manangoni and Mirko Maestri among the usual suspects. And it was Androni Giocattoli's green jersey who took the first King of the Mountains, catching Manangoni off guard in the uphill sprint at La Colonnetta. BMC's Rowan Dennis needed a bike change on a day when he would look to survive as deep into the final climb as he possibly could. But would it be enough to keep the blue jersey within the ranks of BMC for a fourth day? Earlier, Bardiani CSF's Maestri had taken the first intermediate sprint in Viterbo, only to repeat the win uncontested once again at Terni for the second, crossing the line ahead of Marangoni of Nippo Vini Fantini and taking maximum points in a copy and paste performance of stage 3 and indeed stage 2. That gave him the lead in the overall points table with 30, just reward for a third consecutive day in the break. Not a good day though for Team Katusha Alpecin's Matvei Mamikin. With 23 kilometres to go, he crashed out of the leading group formed by Ballerini and Marco Kump of UAE Team Emirates in a frightening fall that could have had much worse consequences if the Russian hadn't reacted quickly, ducking just inches under the guardrail. With Kump then fading, Ballerini was left alone to fend off the on-rushing peloton. At roughly 13 kilometres to go, the real attacks began.
Here goes Michał Kwiatkowski. I saw Geraint Thomas floating up towards the front of the bunch a few moments ago, but this is the first big-name attacker of the day.
Probably just have to survive a couple of kilometres as Spilak, perhaps reacting to the change of pace in the peloton, pushes on again. And I wonder if that's put Jonathan Castroviejo into temporary bother. It has. Kwiatkowski's reacted very well to the acceleration of the Slovenian. And I don't think Castroviejo's given up just yet. And a rider like him, well, that gap is growing, isn't it? Dumoulin's gone, and this is what he did at Jebel Hafit in the Queen Stage of Abu Dhabi. Didn't like what was happening. Very similar situation. A talented group of riders had got an uncomfortable advantage. Dumoulin was uncomfortable with the pace being set in the peloton and decided just to break the elastic, break free of the peloton and get into time trial mode and try on his own to close the gap. Adam Yates is the next to attack. That's just good stuff, isn't it? One after the other, all having a go. Geraint Thomas, his compatriot from Team Sky, responds.
Well, it's going to be a hard old ride for Simon Spilak in the last 3.8 kilometres. It still averages around about 8%. It slackens off slightly in the final 500 metres to the line. But there is Rowan Dennis setting his own pace. This is exactly what we thought he was going to do. He's more of a time trialist than a climb, but he is capable on his day of sitting up there towards the best. But he's just got to limit his losses as much as he can. We're not sure exactly what the time gap is between our leader of the classification, but I can tell you there is on the screen. Van Garderen has exploded.
And then with less than 3 kilometres to go, the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico winner Nairo Quintana of Movistar put in a big final attack, catching up with Spilak, passing the Slovenian and heading unopposed for victory once again. Already a winner of the Vuelta a España, the last stage race of last year, and has just 500 metres to go before he can all but confirm victory in the Tirreno-Adriatico of 2017. He won this stage race outright by winning at Terminilo 2 years ago in 2015, and he is throwing down a carbon copy of that effort, surely to win again. It's all about the time gaps that he can put into his opponents. Here the road flattens out. Here he'll pass the clutch of Colombian fans who have made it to the top of this mountain to celebrate the victory of this very, very special climber. Nairo Quintana once again at the top of a high mountain in the Queen Stage of a prestigious stage race, sees his national colours floating in the wind behind him, celebrates the victory, and with that victory, almost certainly overall victory at Tirreno-Adriatico. We'll stop the clock and have a look at the damage that he's done. A brilliant ride once again, justifying his favouritism. Geraint Thomas, though, digging in, and he'll finish a very, very powerful second place to Nairo Quintana. And once again, another great ride from Geraint Thomas, who's developing into a real GC prospect. 19 seconds down on Nairo Quintana. Then comes Yates at 23 in the company of Rigoberto Urán. Simon Spilak survives to take up 5th place. And that's how it finished. Nairo Quintana, the winner, 18 seconds better than Geraint Thomas, with Adam Yates in 3rd. Dumoulin picked up 6th, and Simon Spilak hung on for 5th. Well, I wasn't too sure about my shape, as I had a cold in the last couple of days and didn't feel great. But the team worked well, Castroviejo especially, attacking when he had to with me on his wheel. until I saw my chance and made my attack. Nairo Quintana then on the top step of the podium at the top of the Terminillo, just as he was in 2015, the winner of the Queen stage of Tirreno-Adriatico, which meant all was different at the top of the overall standings. Adam Yates now in second place at 33 seconds, Thibaut Pinot on 56 seconds. Those were the only riders within a minute of the Colombian. All change in the red jersey competition as well. Peter Sagan dropped down to third place and Mirko Maestri got his just reward for another day in the breakaway. After stage 4, he now led the competition by 8 points from Geraint Thomas in second place. And a new name in the green jersey too. Nairo Quintana competed in just one of the King of the Mountains so far on Tirreno-Adriatico, but earned 15 points in the process. And Adam Yates took over from Bob Jungels in the white jersey for the best young rider. His lead over the man from Luxembourg, 1 minute and 19 seconds. But the blue jersey was always the one that mattered for Nairo Quintana, and he would certainly take some shifting with just 3 stages of Tirreno-Adriatico remaining. Unchanging perfect weather conditions with no clouds and a little chill factor provided the backdrop to stage 5 of Tirreno-Adriatico Named Sport. From Rieti to Fermo, a 210-kilometre course, snaking through the 2016 earthquake-affected areas in an easterly direction, heading towards the Adriatic and ending in the hillside town of Fermo. A succession of walls, short, very sharp climbs in the final kilometres characterise the run-in, featuring some gradients of over 22% and a long 10% final run-in to the finish line. It would be a difficult stage for the blue jersey to defend. At the start, Astana announced Fabio Aru's withdrawal due to bronchitis, as well as AG2 Mondial's Matteo Monteguti. Team Novo Nordisk were also 2 men down overnight. Charles Planet and Romain Joux both struck down by intestinal problems. After the usual ceremonial signing on, the blue jersey of Nairo Quintana led the group out of the starting line and onto the roads for a stage that would perhaps be his final major test as he closed in on a repeat of his win from 2 years ago. It took over 20 kilometres before a real breakaway got clear. In the end, though, a total of 11 strong men went up the road, with the likes of Niki Terpstra, Moritz Lamertink, Alexis Goujard and Davide Ballerini amongst their number. On the way to the first categorised climb of the day, it was Team Katusha Alpecin's climbing Dutchman Lamertink who denied Ballerini much-needed King of the Mountains points, finishing first ahead of Goujard at Capodimonte, 110 kilometres into the race. With just over 90 kilometres to go, the pace went up in the peloton and the breakaway was gradually reeled in. But that acceleration proved too much for Orica Scott's Adam Yates. The 24-year-old Briton, in second place overall and in the white jersey, forced to pull out at 80 kilometres due to intestinal problems. With things changing by the minute at 75 kilometres to the finish line, a group of 4 tried another long-distance attack. Matteo Cattaneo of Androni Giocattoli, Bob Jungels of Quick-Step, Mika Lander of Team Sky and Tim Vellens of Lotto Soudal went out to over 1 minute's advantage over the field. But that too was short-lived as the peloton finally caught up once again with 35 kilometres to go to the finish. Then the pace eased off temporarily. After a few small attacks from Fabio Fellini, Oscar Gatto and Tom Dumoulin, Astana's Luis Leon Sanchez and Team Sky's Vasil Kirienka chiselled out a small time gap, pushing hard for every second, which nearly unseated Kirienka as the Belarusian almost went the wrong way and just avoided crashing out with just 20k to go. With 7 kilometres remaining, a selection of no more than some 20 riders had been forced, the blue jersey among them. American TJ Van Garderen dropped a chain on the attack and was caught. Sanchez tried to stay solo, only to be attacked first by Dumoulin, then Quintana, aided by Castroviejo, and finally Pinot and Thomas. But none of these attacks managed to dislodge the rainbow jersey of Peter Sagan, for whom Rafa Majka had tirelessly pulled at the front. In the final, he was perfectly placed. Here they go then, into the city, onto the cobbles in those narrow, fantastic streets here, lined with people out in the sunshine on Sunday to watch this big finale as they pass through 1 kilometre to go and line themselves up for the big finale. It's anyone's race, and Peter Sagan is lurking with intent, moving up the pack from 10th to 5th to fourth to third, and there he goes on the blind side, almost launching an attack, getting onto the wheel of Thomas, right at the sharp end of things, waiting, biding his time, hits the front. And when's he going to go? He's just toying with everyone at the moment. It's Rigoberto Urano who attacks, and Sagan goes with him. A real contrast of styles from the elegant Uran to the muscular Sagan. Sagan neutralises that attack, finds himself rolling to the front, and still he hasn't really launched the big, devastating attack that everyone is expecting to come. Dumoulin has been dropped. Mollema is beginning to struggle with that pace, so too is Rowan Dennis. Thomas is still there, Quintana's still there. Pinot looks like he's going to attack, just draws alongside Sagan. The road flattens off a little as they head towards the square in the final turn. There's a group of about 6 or 7 riders who are going to do battle, I think, in the final 350 metres of Tirreno-Adriatico, stage 5. Here they come into the square. This is a false flat section and then a right-handed turn with 300 metres of racing remaining. Who's your money on, Dan?
Well, I think it's Sagan's to lose at this point. The way that FDJ rode on the final part up towards the climb, keeping the tempo high, played into the hands, really, of Peter Sagan. Just 300 metres to go. It's going to take a brave person to bet against him now. Geraint Thomas finds himself on the front, but no one's got the final finish that Peter Sagan has, and he sits there safely in 5th place.
Making it look comfortable, Peter Sagan, alongside Nairo Quintana. Roglic in 3rd place, Pinot in 2nd place. Thomas is still there, leading the way. Can Thomas launch one big final acceleration? 150 metres to go, not far now until they'll turn right-handed, but there goes Sagan on the inside. He launches his attack. He has survived all the climbs. He is there when it matters, once again in the rainbow jersey. His arms will go aloft any second now as he takes victory from Thibaut Pinot in 2nd place, Roglic over the line in 3rd, Thomas 4th place, Mollema in 5th, Uran, Dumoulin, the blue jersey of Quintana safely home, but victory once again goes to the brilliant, versatile, one-off, unique talent that is Peter Sagan. Sagan doubling up his 2nd stage win on this edition of Tirreno-Adriatico with Thibaut Pinot in 2nd, Primož Roglic in 3rd, and another good ride from Geraint Thomas in 4th place.
Peter, 2 days ago you said the feeling is more important than winning. How was your feeling today?
Very bad, but I am very happy for this victory.
Why very bad? Because the race was very fast?
Yeah, it was looking like we don't race tomorrow. It was crazy, all day full gas, everybody attacking, like I don't know if they watched the right parcours for today. I don't know, it was crazy.
And stage 6 would provide another opportunity for Peter Sagan to shine. The overall standings, though, largely unchanged after stage 5, except, that is, for the absence of Adam Yates in 2nd place. Thibaut Pinot jumps up to 2nd, and Rowan Dennis is now on the podium. It's a reassuring advantage, given that we don't ride a bad time trial either. So let's hope it's sufficient advantage to win the race. The red jersey too was donned by Peter Sagan, denying Mirko Maestri, courtesy of another stage win. Just 2 points separate 1st from 2nd in the red jersey competition. Davide Ballerini picked up 2 points on the road in the climbers' standings, not quite enough to edge out Nairo Quintana and wear the green jersey. And it was all change at the top of the white jersey standings with the best young rider, Colombian Egan Bernal, taking over from Adam Yates after his abandonment, and Bob Jungels dropping down to 2nd at 16 seconds. But no doubt about the man in control of this race, Nairo Quintana, still in the blue jersey with just 2 more stages to go. The final opportunity for the sprinters and the penultimate stage of Tirreno-Adriatico Named Sport. And still the sun shone. From Ascoli Piceno to Civitanova, 160 kilometres across the hinterland of the Marche region with few major obstacles en route. The riders passing through the province of Macerata with the first King of the Mountains 84.7 kilometres in. The course then following constant undulations across a number of hilltop towns with the first of the 2 intermediate sprints at Recanati. The route eventually entering in the final circuit where the last intermediate sprint would be awarded upon the first passage of the finish line. Bad news at the start for Orica Scott, reduced to just 4 men as Roman Kreuziger succumbed to sickness overnight, and Adam Yates pulling out early into stage 5 with gastrointestinal problems. Add to them Roger Kluger and Caleb Ewan on day 2, and Orica were rapidly running out of numbers. Luka Mezgets, deputising for the absent Ewan in the sprint, was able to see the bright side though.
We got affected by some stomach virus, so we are down to 4. It's a bit of a pity, but yeah, still good to work only with 4 guys.
The final breakaway of the race formed 4 kilometres into the stage. The usual points hunters were represented, with Davide Ballerini and his teammate Raffaello Bonuzzi eager to win the green jersey outright at the final King of the Mountains. Alan Manangoni was his only real threat. Bardiani CSF's Simone Andreetta was dedicated to helping Mirko Maestri to take the red jersey from Peter Sagan. Things went from bad to worse for Orica Scott when Luke Durbridge called it a day en route, leaving only 3. Then, with 87 kilometres to the finish line, the peloton was forced to halt at a level crossing, effectively delaying the race by 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And shortly after that, and just as Ballerini and Marangoni were lining up to contest the King of the Mountains, the UCI commissaires decided to hold the breakaway, leaving the man in the green jersey furious with the jury's baffling decision to block his sprint, about 500 metres from the line. When they were finally allowed to resume their race, it was Nippo-Vini Fantini's Alan Manangoni who took the 5 points ahead of an understandably frustrated Ballerini. His 3 points for second, though, was still enough to win him the competition outright. He finished with 18 points, a 2-point lead on Marangoni, and 3 points better off than Nairo Quintana, earning him a well-deserved green jersey. Then it was over to the battle for the red jersey, as Bardiani CSF's Mirko Maestri took the first intermediate sprints at Recanati. 5 points gained, with a possible 5 more to come, as he took over the virtual lead from Peter Sagan. The 25-year-old then consolidated that advantage at the second intermediate sprint at Civitanova Marche, as the riders entered the final 15.2-kilometre circuit, gaining another 5 points to lead Sagan now by 8. Everything, though, would depend on the world champion, finishing outside the top 3 on the stage. With the race all back together, and with just 8 kilometres to go, Vincenzo Nibali came out of hibernation to launch an attack, with AG2 à la Mondiale's Jan Bakelants doing the same soon afterwards. Then on the final climb, Peter Sagan attacked, pulling Quick-Step Floor's Fernando Gaviria with him, but nothing got away, and heading into the final kilometres, it was all back together. Peter Sagan in about 10th place now, through that chicane you were talking about, the pinch point. Sasha Modolo is there from UAE Team Emirates, and one rider, as you rightly say, from Team Dimension Data, but it's not Mark Cavendish, and there's no sign of Mark Cavendish towards the front. Also, Fernando Gaviria has disappeared from the scene at the moment.
Well, I saw a glimpse as well of Edvald Boasson-Hagen in the National Championships jersey. You can see Gaviria is glued to the red jersey there of Peter Sagan. He obviously feels like that is the wheel to be on at this point in time. It's had much more an effect than we thought, that small climb. A few kilometres to go, and with 1.4 remaining, they're now not too far away from the left-hand turn, which comes with just under a kilometre remaining.
So Lotto Soudal are there with strength in number. Still it's Orica Scott and Daryl Impey who are heading affairs, with Matteo Trentin from Quick-Step Floors on their wheel. They're the big names, though. Those are the two to watch out for. This mouth-watering tussle between Fernando Gaviria and Peter Sagan, two muscular sprinters. Are they going to do battle now as we turn under the Flamme Rouge and head for home? Where's Sagan? Where's that red jersey? And how late is he going to leave it? And what can Gaviria do to get past Sagan, should it come to that? All straight now in the final few hundred metres towards the finishing line. Lotto Soudal have control of the front, trying to set things up for Jens de Busquere. But the rider in the red jersey is moving closer and closer to the sharp end of this sprint. Where is Sagan now? Buried in the pack. He's got Trentin from Quick-Step Floors in front of him, but he's got Gaviria still stuck to his wheel with a beard, biding his time, waiting to pounce, those two. The big favourites still, I think, for this sprint. Jens de Busquere being led out by his man for Lotto Soudal, but if he looks behind him, he'll see trouble, and trouble emerging in the shape of Peter Sagan, now in 4th place. A little split there in the peloton. The final selection for this sprint has been made with a couple of hundred metres to go. Gaviria opens up his sprint. Sagan is on his wheel. Gaviria's got the edge at the moment. The Colombian hitting for home, but Sagan, it's going to be tight between them. Split that one. I think Gaviria feels that he's got the win, but that was ever so tight. Dan, from your position, what do you make make of that?
Well, he just sat up before the line, Gaviria, and I thought he'd sat up because he felt that Sagan had the momentum and was going past him, but he gave a small punch as he crossed the line, as if to say that he'd won the stage. And
a little shake of the head there, though. A little shake of the head there, and that looks like congratulations being offered to Peter Sagan. But, yeah, there was a mini fist bump, and the winner of stage 6 is being declared already by television, so there we go. Fernando Gaviria edges out Peter Sagan at the line. So that was stage 6. Gaviria taking the win from Peter Sagan in second place. Jasper Stuyven sprinting to an excellent third.
Queríamos ganar el primer día para sprinter.
I wanted to win. On the first sprinting day, I made an error, stayed behind, and then fell. But today I felt strong and my pace was excellent, so that I could win here. A fourth win of what could be a very promising season for Fernando Gaviria of Quick-Step Floors. The overall standings, though, largely unchanged after stage 6. Nairo Quintana still leading Thibaut Pinot by 50 seconds. Peter Sagan retained control of the points competition, still pulling on the red jersey despite the best efforts of Mirko Maestri with just one stage remaining. But it was finally all over in the King of the Mountains competition. Davide Ballerini getting his reward for an aggressive Tirreno-Adriatico to win, also by 2 points. The white jersey was still on the shoulders of the young Colombian Egan Bernal. Bob Jungels still trailed the Colombian by 16 seconds, but a time trial to come. And after 6 stages, that was all that separated Nairo Quintana from final victory in Tirreno-Adriatico. 10 kilometres separating the Colombian from overall victory. Just one more hurdle to overcome for the riders at Tirreno-Adriatico, and it was the traditional showpiece finale. A 10k time trial by the coast, finally to determine the overall standings and a chance for a TT specialist to notch a stage win. A straightforward time trial then, with a simple out and back format, blown by a prevailing northerly wind on the first half of the course before turning into a testing final 5k straight to the finish line on the shore of the Adriatic in San Benedetto del Tronto. BMC's Stefan Kung was amongst a number of riders who didn't start. He opted out through illness, and neither did Lotto Soudal's Tim Wellens. One of the first big race favourites, Alex Dowsett of Movistar, was off early and set the best time of the day, stopping the clock at 11:35. 12 seconds slower than last year, but good enough for a 10th place by the end of the day. The big race favourite, Rowan Dennis, didn't let anyone down. He was the fastest man of this closing stage, finishing at 11:18 and taking victory over Jos van Emden, just 3 seconds slower than the BMC rider. Michael Hepburn clocked an excellent third place, just fractions of a second separating the Orica Scott rider to the Team Lotto NL Jumbo specialist. Steve Cummings held on to 4th place on the stage, finishing in 11:26, and Primoz Roglic was in 5th, 11 seconds off the winning pace. Maciej Bodnar of Bora Hansgrohe crossed the line in 11:33, earning him a well-deserved 6th place, 15 seconds off the winner's pace. But teammate and red jersey Peter Sagan, however, didn't have the race he anticipated. His performance was dented somewhat by a lady walking her dog across the circuit. The world champion had to take quick evasive action to avoid a crash. But despite the hiccup, at the end of the day, he seemed unfazed.
It's funny. I didn't brake because I was in my position on the time trial. Yeah, and yeah, I saw her really late. Then there was one possibility, just go out of the road.
There was a solid performance from Edvald Bosenhagen of Team Dimension Data. He took 7th place, 15 seconds off the winner's pace. And Geraint Thomas of Team Sky finished 8th with another extremely solid performance. Ryan Mullen came in 9th, the Cannondale Drepak rider from Ireland, finishing 17 seconds off the pace set by Rowan Dennis. But the undisputed winner of the 2017 Tirreno-Adriatico Narmith Sport was Movistar's Nairo Quintana once again. The Colombian ended his race still with 25 seconds in the bank. Good enough to earn him the blue jersey and a second Tirreno-Adriatico win following on from 2015. And this is going to be another victory for Nairo Quintana. Already a stage race victor for 2017 at the Valenciana earlier on this season. He did the damage once again on the Terminillo climb on stage 4, where he outclimbed everyone else in this classy, talented field. And he's hung on here through the perils of stage 5 and stage 6, where he came under repeated attack. And now he has ridden a very, very proficient time trial, finishing in 45th place, 41 seconds down on Rowan Dennis, the stage winner, and that is comfortably enough for Nairo Quintana to win another Tirreno-Adriatico, and it could be the beginning of a very special year for Nairo Quintana. So stage 7 ended in victory for Rowan Dennis, with Jos van Emden heartbreakingly relegated to 2nd place on the same time as Michael Hepburn in 3rd. Dennis then, the favourite, justifying his favouritism by taking the stage. The overall standings mean that Nairo Quintana wins by 25 seconds to Rowan Dennis, who relegated Thibaut Pinot down to 3rd place on 36 seconds. It's a great race, one I like the most. To win here is an honour for me and for my team, who always helped me to stay strong until the very end. Once again, Peter Sagan won a points jersey on a stage race, the winner of the red jersey. He had to survive a scare though, after that collision, or near collision at least, with a dog. His winning margin, 2 points from Mirko Maestri in 2nd place. Geraint Thomas picked up more points today to consolidate 3rd place. Davide Ballerini from Androni Giocattoli simply had to finish today to win the King of the Mountains competition that he clinched out on the road yesterday, winning by 2 points from Alan Manangoni. And then there was a final change in the white jersey competition. Bob Jungels, courtesy of his superior time trial, leapfrogged Egan Bernal into 1st place, relegating the young Colombian down to 2nd. A proficient time trial saw Thibaut Pinot hold on to a podium position, despite the fact that Rowan Dennis snatched 2nd place from him with his time trial. But the Colombian fans were delighted to see their man on the top step of the podium again, as Nairo Quintana clinched overall victory in the 2017 edition of Tirreno-Adriatico.